make sure it sound right, boy.
Good morning, everyone. This is Financial Literacy 101, and I've been thinking, I've been pondering, I was sitting here breaking down and trying to find out why don't schools teach our kids about finance? I mean, personal finance education should start early at both home and school. Ideally, personal finance concepts should be taught in elementary, middle, and high school and should continue all the way into college. In mathematics, you start with counting, move on to addition, subtraction, and then you move on to division and multiplication. You need to learn letters before you can read. Personal finance education should be a cumulative process with age-appropriate topics toward each school year. The reality is that many states and school districts do not provide any substantial personal finance education until high school, if at all. Did you learn anything in high school? Did you learn anything about a budget, saving, investing, especially your credit score? Because a lot of us, you have trash ass credit scores because no one ever taught you. Your parents didn't teach you, your granddad didn't teach you, your grandmother didn't teach you, your aunt, your nephews, anybody, your cousins, no one taught you about finance. The basics of personal finance planning, teaching young people about money. Now that you're old, you know nothing about money, and your kids are going through the same thing you went through, and you're doing nothing about it. It's about value, how to save, invest, and spend, and how not to waste it should be taught in schools as early as elementary, especially in your home. If the school's not teaching it, then it's your job. It's your obligation to teach your kids finance. But too many school districts teach personal finance for the first and only time in high school, if at any. Now, according to the National Center for Education Statistics back in 2015, 69% of students enroll in college in the fall immediately following high school completion. That means that about 31% of students are likely entering the workforce after high school. They're not going to college. They're not going to trade school. They're not going for certifications. Now, for those graduates who choose to go on to a higher education, personal finance education in college is often scant and scattered, with few colleges offering a personal finance elective and even fewer requiring personal finance instructions as a graduation requirement. What does that mean? Even though your kids are going to college, even they're going for higher learning, if they're not in accounting, if they're not in finance, they're not learning about money. Regardless of when a young person's formal education ends, they will be thrust into the situations where they need to know how to manage daily living expenses. So high school seems like the best and most logical place to deliver a personal finance education to America's most youth. Now, we just in high school at your home, during their high school years are the most critical. Some people even argue elementary, middle school, but at least in high school. Now, admittedly, a high school focus could admit some of the students who have dropped out of school. The National Center for Education Statistics indicates that the high school dropout rate, ages from 16 through 24 who are not enrolled in school have not earned a high school credential, was about 6% in 2015. Now, the Center High School Report Card focuses on each state financial literacy education policy because the data is obtainable. It is very hard to measure the amount and intensity of personal finance instruction that is occurring in people's homes. Because guess what? People are not teaching their kids at home, and they're not making it public, and they're not making a public report. And meaningful data on this topic is hard to obtain for the thousands of elementary and middle school across the country. Definitive college data is equally hard to find in this era. But however, a lot of great things are happening in colleges and universities, as well as elementary and middle schools. I guess they just missed out on the baby boomers, missed out on the generations, but the millennials are the ones who are somewhat getting the information. But again, this is the things that you need to be doing in your particular household, because we understand that personal finance education in high school provides students with the knowledge and skills to manage financial resources effectively for a lifetime of financial well-being, okay? So some of the things I'm talking about is creating a budget, get out of debt, learn how to save, learn how to invest, creating an emergency fund, as well as raising and maintaining and understanding your credit score, the 5 pieces of your credit score. I mean, the number of financial decisions an individual must make continue to increase, and variety of complexity of financial products continue to grow. So there's all these different programs, all these different platforms that if you yourself are not that savvy, you can sign them up. I mean, young people often do not understand debt, credit cards, mortgages, banking, investment, and insurance products and services, payday lending, rent-to-own products, credit reports, credit score. See, they need to understand these things, to understand stuff like payday lending, rent-to-own products, credit cards can essentially wipe away the wealth they could have been building if they didn't know the information anyway. But see, many students do not understand that one of the most important financial decisions they will make in their lives is choosing whether they go to college after high school and if they decide to pursue additional education and what field to specialize in. Kids are not learning about personal finance at home, okay? I remember, 2017 Roe Price survey noted that 69% of parents have some reluctance about discussing financial matters with their kids. In fact, parents are nearly as uncomfortable talking to their children about sex as they're about money. Why are you not teaching your kids about money? Everything about their life is about money. See, when they're toddlers, they're 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, they should be learning about how to manage and money, why and should they save money? Why should they be thinking about investment? Now, only 23% of kids surveyed indicated that they talk to their parents frequently about money, and 35% stated that their parents are uncomfortable talking to them about money, like you're talking about freaking sex. It's about money. They need this to live. You don't need sex to live, man. It's probably something you might want to learn about. But nonetheless, you need money to live in a modern day world. Now, on an international financial literacy test of 15-year-olds, the U.S. ranked 7th out of 15 countries, trailing China, Canada, Russia, and Australia, and was just slightly better than Poland, and that is abysmal, ladies and gentlemen. We should be one of the first. This is a country built off fiat. This is a Western power world that's built off capitalism. The one thing that your kids need to know about is about money, how to leverage debt, how to build, how to invest. Now, another survey back in 2016 indicated that only 31% of young Americans 18 to 26 agreed that their high school education did a good job of teaching them healthy financial habits. Only 31%. Out of those, they actually surveyed. So most colleges students borrow to finance their education, yet they often do so without fully understanding how much debt is appropriate for their education or the connection between the area of study and their income level that they can expect upon graduation. Many students attend college without understanding financial aid, loans, debt, credit, inflation, budgeting, and credit scores. I mean, I know friends who went to these D1 schools, Penn State, Florida State, are paying $70,000. Do you think they would have did that? They can go out and get a certification and make the same amount of money or better? Probably not. Now, at many colleges, financial literacy education is largely composed of brief, federally mandated interest and exit loan counseling for students, which is absolutely nothing. You need to be teaching this in middle school. You need to be teaching this in high school. Debt. You need to understand debt because your ass is in debt and your kids gonna be in debt because you never taught them and teach them about debt. Now, student feedback indicates that the most do not comprehend the information presented, and it viewed it as one of the most requirements of the financial aid process rather than a learning opportunity. And this is why Financial Literacy 101 exists. Now, essentially, I have more people in their 25 to 55 age range, but I will love a younger audience because these are the ones who really need the information before they start down their financial journey and begin to tank because of the lack of information. Teach your kids, or direct your kids to Financial Literacy 101. Yep, that was the plug. Student debt can be very high for some recent college graduates, and large debt variation exists from state to state. Now, according to a recent study of 2016, four-year public and private college graduates, these students left college with average student debt that ranged from a low of $20,000, and that's in Utah, to a high of $36,000 in New Hampshire. The percent of these students graduating with debt range from a low of 43% in Utah to a high of 77% in West Virginia. And that's a lot of money in West Virginia, ladies and gentlemen. Now, according to the U.S. Department of Education, 11.5% of students that graduated from college in 2014 having loans in default. And a lot of you trying to defer. Eventually, you're going to have to pay these people their money. So I give you this charge because I'm exhausted, that you at least teach your kids how to create a budget and the purpose and the reasons why they should save for an emergency. And everything else, direct them to Financial Literacy 101 so I can teach them how to invest, where to invest, why do they invest, how they can compound on their money, and break things down so simple a 10-year-old can understand. Because I tell you why, I have a 10-year-old and he understands. This is Financial Literacy 101. Learn money and make sure that your children and even yourself understand financial literacy. I'm out.